Hey guys, it's Danette, and I'm back again with another episode of Millennial Voice, the show. I'm here with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun every Sunday at 2 p.m. on Facebook. And as I always do, this week I have a new guest here with me. And sometimes I get lucky enough to interview my family, and today just so happens to be my mama. She's here with Reid Cares Foundation. It's a nonprofit that she started in 2018 that services kids who are food insecure on college campuses. So without giving too much away, I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she does, and then we'll get into the show.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danette, and I am looking forward to having this conversation. So, yes, Reid Cares, we help college students on campuses in the Philadelphia and Delaware County areas, and we provide food for the pantries as well as scholarships for the students to help with tuition. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Mom. So the first thing that I want to touch on is how did the idea to do Reid Cares Foundation even come about? And is there any direct correlation you have from your experience with the students who are, in need of food on campus? Is that kind of what sparked the idea? Like, kind of take us through that process.
Sure. So Reid Cares started as a small idea when in actually your school, yeah, it was yours. So Westchester University's magazine, they had started talking about food insecurity and that a pantry was going to open. And then shortly thereafter, Temple had also said that they were starting a pantry for food insecure college students. And at the time, that's where your brother was and still is actually at this moment. So the idea that there were students that were sitting possibly next to my students in class that were just hungry, and I knew that I could do something about that, that's really what sparked the idea. But honestly, if I'm being completely transparent, I thought I would do one food drive and help stock the pantries until I got there to actually deliver. And I saw the kids, and a lot of them looked like me.
Mm. So you mean like people of color?
People of color, yes.
Okay, so it's so interesting that you brought up the fact that Westchester and Temple kind of popped up, and probably other food pantries really started popping up around the same time. Why do you think that is?
So the largest growing population of college students is coming from a lower income base.
Mm.
So what happens, there are different grants. There's one called the Chafee grant here in Pennsylvania, where foster students, they age out of the system at age 18, but they are eligible for tuition reimbursement. I mean, not tuition reimbursement, I'm sorry, tuition waivers, and also receive some grant money to attend school. And couple that with low income students who there's a lot of programs that are out there that are helping with tuition to help those students get a better lead on where they would try to go with their, are planning to go with their future. So to offer that assistance. But I think the big part that was left out was tuition doesn't cover room and board and food.
Yeah.
And so while the students may have had money to attend school, they don't necessarily have a support system that enables them to financially take care of the other expenses that come along with food.
Mm. Whenever I think about, the fact that there's students on campus who are going to school, and again, like you said, tuition isn't covering their food, it always kind of makes me question um, tuition in general and scholarships in general and things like that, because I feel like the two are so like interlocked. Like, if you have these students who are living on campus who are going to school, then like the least you could do is feed them. And so I think that's so interesting because I know like food plans and meal plans and things like that are like super expensive and just completely out of some people's budget. So it's really unfortunate that some people have to choose between going to school and like eating sometimes. And I know that there's like a direct correlation between like being able to do good in school and being able to like perform at your best level, and also making sure that you're like nourished and eating. So that's so interesting to me.
Right. And same here. And I think what it is that it's just not something that's thought about. So you have tuition. So we stress the importance of education,
Mm.
which I am a proponent of. However, one of the things that we don't really think about as a society, in my opinion, is that a lot of the students that have need, they were eligible for free and reduced lunch
Mhm.
from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Yeah.
And magically, the income didn't change once it was time for them to go to college.
Right,
So,
right.
where there was that support and assistance before in helping the child excel,
Yeah.
is suddenly taken away. And
And
most of the scholarships are for tuition.
mm, yeah. I mean, and even thinking about the fact that on May 25th, 2021, somebody is considered a child, and somebody who's 18 is considered a child, 18 in high school is considered a child and worthy of getting a free or reduced lunch. And then they graduate, they walk across the stage on May 26th, and of that, as of that same day, they're not considered a child anymore. I think that that's crazy to me. I mean, even just like education in general, I think that, or going from high school to college, it's like 1 second you're treated as a child, and the next second you're treated as an adult who doesn't need any assistance. And so, my next question to you is, how do you propose that we bridge that gap between looking at students as children and then just looking at them as adults automatically as soon as they walk across that stage to get their high school diploma?
Well, I think that's all systemic.
Mm.
So I do believe that there are some things that are in place, like students that have special needs, for instance, that are differently abled,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they are allowed to still be dependents up until a certain age. And
Mm.
even beyond that, depending on the severity of
Okay.
their abilities,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the same thing applies, especially in the place of students who are now considered adults and therefore are no longer a part of the foster care system.
Mm.
So they're also homeless.
Yeah.
So they don't have anywhere to go. And there are programs that are in place that will allow students to stay on campus year round now. At most of the universities, they do offer that because there has been a need, and Soledad O'Brien has brought a lot of attention to food insecurity among college students. So I think the gap is starting to get smaller, but ideally, I think that it should be something similar in terms of you're still considered a dependent while in college
Yeah.
up through age 22 so
Right.
that you can have support and services. And another thing that I was not aware of initially, and there was some changes during the right before the pandemic. So in total transparency, I'd have to read up to see if this part was taken care of. But at one point, the answer was, well, why can't those students apply for SNAP benefits, which some people know as food stamps or an EBT card? And what that requires is that they work at least 20 hours
Mm.
in order to do so.
Yeah.
So you want a student who, to your point, on May 25th was a student, had a home. On May 26th, technically as a foster student, is on their own. You want them to now excel in school, have a full-time, well, at least 20 hours a week job, have a certain income level, and be able to care for themselves with room and board. So it's almost that it's the way that it is set up is not beneficial for a student that does not have the ability to, say, commute.
So do you think that in a general sense and historically, the government, this country has failed its young people who are transitioning?
So I think from my experience over the past 3 years, there are things that we are in a position to do differently, but it gets hung up in need and politics, right? And so one of the things that I think is that it becomes low on the priority list because a lot of people that are governing and making the rules, they can't relate because this has never been their story. So it does not make its way onto the floor of legislation to make a change. And then you have some schools that it's kind of embarrassing, right? So you're Ivy League school and you have hungry people, so you don't necessarily want a pantry. It has to be something that comes from like a student organization. So it's just really very interesting that we have somehow gotten caught up in what things might look like to the other person instead of directly taking care of the need.
Right. So, in regards to relatability, you're a first generation college student, and I presume that a lot of the people on campuses who have these needs are also first generation college students as well. Would that be a correct assumption?
That is.
Okay. And so, how did, I mean, knowing that you were fortunate enough for this to not be your specific experience as a first generation college student, how does it feel knowing that there were other first generation college students around you or who came before you or who came after you who have this problem?
So it's very disheartening because as a 18, 19-year-old, like we used to laugh about things like this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was like, oh, you have to eat ramen noodles. Like I'm going to the calf for steak and shrimp night. So Westchester used to have a steak and shrimp night like once a semester, and you had to have this special ticket. It used to be real fun. But when we thought of hunger back then, it was we just didn't want what was in the cafeteria, or we just were waiting for our parents to send, because my mom and pop used to send me money every month. I would blow through it with pizzas and stuff, but
Or you didn't want to spend your own money, I'm sure.
right.
Yourself.
And so that was the hungry college student at that point. Never in my wildest imagination did I consider that there were students that were hungry, that were actually hungry. Like I was hungry by choice.
Me.
I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I was just hungry because I didn't feel like going to the cafeteria, or I didn't want what was in my little fridge in the room.
Yeah.
But I wasn't hungry because I had a need.
Yeah. And it's so
Never thought on
interesting.
me.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that you bring that up because I remember a couple weeks ago, I often talk about this on the show about things that I see on Twitter because that's really a lot of my life. But so a couple weeks ago, I was on Twitter and a tweet was trending about students back in the day whose parents might not have been able to send in money for them to attend the class pizza party, and how the schools would often separate the students who could afford the pizza and they would have the party for them, and then the students who did not give the money would have to go to another classroom. And so things like this always make me think about how that ignorance that you talked about earlier kind of really starts from a young age by splitting up people who the quote unquote have and have nots, or like re-implement these like negative stereotypes about what it means to be hungry, or treating it as a joke and not something that's serious. And often the people who are on in the brunt of the jokes, they laugh it off too. And so but these are the type of people who often grow up and end up in this situation. And so it's just so interesting to me how from the beginning of our lives, really, we're really shown that there is a difference between the people who have and the people who don't, and that the people who don't have are meant to be laughed at. And so, again, just going back to how you were talking about legislation and people not taking it so seriously, I think it goes beyond just the macro level, or I think it is also on a smaller scale as well. And so, I guess my next question to you then is, how do you propose that we stop contributing to those negative stereotypes and stop treating hunger as something that's shameful or something that should be laughed at or is okay to be laughed at? And do you think that fixing that issue would also inadvertently fix the problem?
Wow. So that's a lot to unpack. I guess the first thing, and as soon as you said that about the pizza, I immediately thought about pretzel day, right? So when you and Trey were in school,
Mm-hmm.
there was pretzel day. You send in 50 cents, your child gets a pretzel. And it never dawned on me to perhaps send in $1 and say, give this to the teacher and tell the teacher that if there's a child that can't participate in pretzel day, that this is our gift to them. Something very small,
Yeah.
but could change the trajectory for someone else.
Right.
Because we're thinking it's really small. Like I can probably buy the whole class pizza or pretzels and it not be anything. But to your point, that's just so ingrained in who we are, the have and the have-nots, and you laugh at the have-nots, right? So to combat that, I'm not suggesting do away with special things like that, because I do think that, you should be able to celebrate and have little pizza parties and pretzel days, but perhaps a note to the teacher if you're having an issue, right?
Right.
Or if you are in a position to assist, a note to the teacher saying, hey, for the next pizza day, I'd like to just buy pizza for the whole class and not worry about who brings in $1, right? So I think that those who have help those who don't.
Mm.
But that's just more of who I am, right? So it's never what are you going to do to be a part of the solution?
Mm.
And I think that we can start the solution very early, right? With helping our children see that we all have a purpose and we are our brothers and sisters keeper. And just as an aside, I went to the market on, I think it was Thursday, and I noticed that there was cereal for $1.77. So I bought 5 boxes of cereal that I'm delivering to the Cherry Pantry.
Yeah.
On Tuesday. So that's 5 students, and it didn't cost me $10. Yeah. So if everybody who was able just bought 5 boxes of cereal, we could wipe this problem out without even asking for any special assistance, any new laws to be passed, because those things take time, right? But if we all did our part, we could get rid of this. The other thing that I absolutely, and I don't say that I hate many things, but the other thing that was trending for a while that just really, I was so disheartened, was not feeding an elementary school student who was behind on their lunch tab. So it was schools that were sending letters home that said, hey, Danette owes $17.10. So when she comes through the lunch line, and Danette probably has no idea that mom and dad didn't send the money in. But when Danette comes through this lunch line on Monday, if Danette doesn't have $17.10, we're not going to let Danette eat. Mm. And then when you couple that with the fact of how much food we waste as a country that we just throw away at the end of a day,
Yeah.
that is just like, there's no correlation.
Side note, you guys should watch Just Eat It on was it Netflix or Hulu?
I think it was Netflix. It could have been Hulu though,
This is
but
not
that,
this is not a paid advertisement, but I'm
but
a
you should
huge
watch.
proponent for documentaries and educating yourself. And if you guys want to understand the gravity of the issue of food waste in this country, I definitely recommend checking that out. I had my mom check it out, and you'll be amazed, not in a good way, at how much food goes to waste in this country. And I'd love if you guys would follow up with me too if you decide to check it out. Um, but I'm gonna keep going here because we're running out of time. So you mentioned that you do the food pantries in the Montgomery County and Delaware County schools, some of, and you didn't mention though that you do some work for your church, Salem. That's very similar. But one thing that I wanted to touch on is the scholarship. And the reason that I wanted to touch on the scholarship is because I know at one point you were having a bit of trouble um, giving the scholarship out, which is so interesting to me because it's free money essentially. All you have to do is write an article. I mean, I'm sorry, not article. I'm so like wrapped up in my work. You have to, write an essay and things like that. And so that really struck me because I remember being in college and one, not necessarily taking advantage of what was right in front of me, but also more than that, not necessarily knowing those things existed. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the importance of accessibility as far as scholarships are concerned.
Okay. So the first thing, I would be remiss if I did not publicly thank Pastor Marshall Mitchell for having a conversation with me regarding food insecurity and the establishment of the First Fruits Ministry at Salem Baptist Church in Abington, Pennsylvania. So we do collect food from our congregation the first Sunday, or right now it's the first Saturday of every month. And we distribute that not only to the community, but that food is also delivered to Temple, Cheney, Manor, Arcadia, and I feel like I'm forgetting, and Penn State Abington. So thank you to all of the Salem individuals that may be watching. I love you more than words can say. Now, regarding the scholarship, I do currently have 3 scholarships available. They are $500 scholarships, and you can find out all the information about it by visiting www.reidcaresfoundation.org. The $500 is to help you with your meal plan. In absence of a meal plan, we can either send it for your tuition, or we can purchase a $500 grocery store card for you to be able to eat during the semester. So we do have that available. And to your point, I think what some of the problem was with accessibility this go round was due to the pandemic and not being able to disseminate information in the way that I normally do. Mm-hmm. So normally I can send letters to local churches. I can send letters to high schools in the area for their counselors. But with everything being online or closed, those conversations and that communication just didn't happen. So I'm really hopeful that that was a one-time issue and that I won't be needing to deal with that going forward.
Right.
Yeah, so that's when I really think back and look at, well, what was different between 2021, because by the time that that we were able to award our 2020 recipients, we had already had their information prior to the pandemic starting. So we were able to assist them that way.
Right. So how do you think that COVID has um, affected the need of students who might be food insecure?
Well, I think one of the
Sorry, and one more thing. And also going back into the school year, what are some things that you're looking for, some things that you're doing that you might not have had to do last year because of the pandemic?
Okay. So I think that COVID made a wider divide or made the divide known to a larger extent because with the pantries that are on these college campuses that the students are able to go to, now a lot of them closed up for a period of time. And the students weren't able to stay on campus unless they had, in a situation where there were some foster students, foster care students who had aged out. So they were able to maintain their schooling. But for the most part, everybody had to go home, right? And so the place that they just came from was already dealing with food insecurity. And now you've added another party back into that. Right. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that we did last year that I was very proud of is that we were able to connect with the Cheney University pantry and identify a few students and provide them with gift cards that didn't just help them, but help their family at Thanksgiving time.
Oh,
Right. So it just kind of makes for a challenge, makes me more creative. And so COVID definitely was a challenge because pantries had closed, the access to students was gone, and they went into their separate areas of the world.
yeah.
So when I can just take food to a central location, that works, right? But then back to First Fruits at Salem, we were also able to then broaden that and provide food for the community. So we kind of were able to get back into some students' houses because their families were picking up boxes of food. And Enon was very similar. And there are other religious institutions. There were temples. There were Muslim, and now it's escaping me what their halls are called. But there were mosques, thank you. There were mosques that all came together really and started serving their community differently, right? And so now going back into that situation, it's time to shift. And the shift is that still help your community, but don't forget about the fact that some people in your community are now students at colleges that they can't get home. They can't get back to your church to get a box. So take the boxes to the schools. Temple has a pantry. LaSalle has a pantry. The Community College of Philadelphia, I believe, has a pantry. Westchester has a pantry. Penn State Abington has a pantry. So Cabrini, Arcadia. So you can go online and find out if a school has a pantry just by looking at their student services.
Right, right. So, okay. So my last and final question for you is probably going to be the easiest one to answer, and that's what is the most commonly asked for item from students?
So there's two. One is breakfast foods.
Mm.
So, and it's really interesting. But you get breakfast food a lot. Non-fat dry milk, which I just to my ignorance, I didn't even know that was a thing. So
I didn't know it wasn't until just now.
right. So shelf stable milk that doesn't go bad. It's like powder. I guess it's like more like a powdered milk with cereal. That's probably one of the biggest. The other is grab and go. And grab and go in that like little pasta one pop in the microwave type dishes
Mhm.
that a student can pick up, put in a microwave in the dorm hall and eat. Now, with that, I have been lately much more conscious at looking at sodium count because I also don't want to support a student now that gives them health issues down the line, right?
Right.
So I'm very cognizant of that. The other, I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, that's tricky.
The other thing that so those are the two food items. The other thing that most people don't think about are feminine products or
Mhm.
for those who menstruate. Um, those products, tampons, pads, even if you can get SNAP benefits, which is the EBT, which is the food stamps, even if you can get that, those items can't be purchased with that card.
Mm.
And so, period poverty is a very real thing that I never even considered was an issue
Right.
until I started doing this work.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, Danette, Mom, thank you so much for the time that you spent here with us. Can you just tell everybody where they could find your information if they want to donate, if they want to keep up with you? So I guess your website and also your Instagram.
Absolutely. So I can be found at reidcaresfoundation.org and then online with Facebook and Instagram. I don't have a Twitter, sadly. Facebook and Instagram, I can be found at Reid Cares.
Awesome. And so is there any last things that you wanted to say before we depart? Anything that I might not have touched on?
So one thing, real quick, Reid is REID.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have had people that have asked for the for the last name spelling. So our last name is REID. So it's Reid Cares Foundation.
Read
Dot org,
ID.
REID. Right. So I wanted to make sure that I had mentioned that. And then what was your other
It was
question?
just, it was there anything that I didn't touch on that you wanted to go over really quick before we say goodbye?
Oh, absolutely. So the need is great, but if we all work together, we can handle it. Now, while I only handle the Philadelphia, Delaware County, Montgomery County area, there are pantries all across the country that need your help. So if you are outside of the viewing area, don't let that be the reason why you can't assist. Look for the schools in your area and form partnerships. The pantries will love to see you coming because every year they are ending up with more and more students because again, the highest population of incoming students is coming from a demographic that was either struggling to pay for lunch in elementary K through 12 or were recipients of the National Food Lunch Program. So thank you for having me and allowing me to talk about this topic that I'm so passionate about.
Awesome. Well, Mom, thank you so much for being here. And I'm just so proud of you and all that you're doing. And I hope that you guys watching this are able to kind of take some information from this and do your part in really ending the problem that could be solved. Unfortunately, mutual aid is really important right now, probably more so than ever before. But the fortunate thing is that people are willing to give, and that's a great thing. So, with that being said, again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching another episode of A Millennial Voice, the show. Again, my name is Danette Reid, and I'm here with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun. Make sure you're checking me out every Sunday at 2 p.m., where I have different guests on weekly. And also check us out at www.philasun.com if you want to check out our articles. I'm a writer as well, as I mentioned earlier, and my amazing colleagues put out great work weekly too. So again, thank you guys for being here. Mom, thank you for coming and talking to us, and I will talk to you later.
Thank you.